Hello everyone, this is your teacher Adam Asif Naviwala and I'm back again with a revision video series on O-level maths. Today's video is going to be based on O-level maths vectors. We are going to cover some basic concepts and then you can reinforce those concepts using a past paper question. So let's begin. Alright, so the first thing that you should be clear with is the definition of a vector. Basically, vector are those quantities which require magnitude as well as direction. On the other hand, there are some scalar quantities which only need magnitude, okay, for their description. The example for a scalar quantity can be the distance, whereas for the vector quantities where you are going to need the magnitude as well as the direction, the example could be a displacement of 2 points. Now, representation of vector. Vectors are represented by drawing a line segment, okay, and you can represent a vector in a column vector form. So for example, if you see over here, I have drawn a vector PQ, where if I say PQ and I make an arrowhead on that, then P is the starting point and Q is the ending point. So PQ in terms of its column vector is going to be represented as a distance it has moved in the x direction and the distance it has moved in the y direction. So we call the top number to be the value, the distance moved in the x component, x direction, and the second value is the distance moved in the y direction. So that's the y component. So for vector PQ, this is 4 units on the right, so that's why it's plus 4. If this was minus 4, then that would be 4 units on the left side. So 4 units on the right and 3 units on the top. So PQ can be represented as a column vector as 4, 3, meaning move from the starting point, move 4 units on the right and 3 units on the top. You're going to get to the end point Q. You join them with a straight line. So this line segment is how you represent a vector. RS, that's another vector. So if you want to travel from R to S, how many units do you have to move in the x direction? 2 units. And how many units do you have to move in the y direction? 6 units downward. So if you are going to move 6 units downward, that's negative 6 for you. So the x component is going to be 2 units and the y component is going to be negative 6. Then we have to discuss about the magnitude of a vector. Magnitude of a vector is basically the length, and you can see the formula over here, but I can tell you how this formula was derived. If you guys remember Pythagoras theorem, okay, so you can see over here that it's a right angle triangle being formed. So using Pythagoras theorem, if you want to find this hypotenuse, you're going to take the square of this x component and the square of the y component, and then you're going to add it and square root to get PQ. Same is here. So if I ask you to find the magnitude of PQ magnitude is going to be written like this, and it is going to be the square of the x component, which is 4, and the square of the y component and square root. So 4 square is 16 plus 9, and if you take a square root of the sum, that is 25, you get 5 units. So the length of PQ vector is going to be 5 units. Let's find the length of RS. So x component square plus y component square and square root. So this is going to give us square root of 40, and square root of 40 can be written as in decimal as well, or you can convert it into 2 root 10. That's the length of RS vector. In decimal, it's going to be 6.32. Okay, so now we are going to see how to draw these vectors out. The first vector is A, and there's a small arrowhead over here, okay? And the column vector is given to us as 3, 1. So you can take the starting point, you can take any starting point on the graph. Let's say if I take this as my starting point, then I have to move 3 units in the x direction and 3 units in the x direction and 1 unit in the y direction. So that is going to be the ending point. And now you're going to join them with a straight line to mark the vector out. And you're going to label it as vector A. The next vector is PQ. I can have any vector, any point as a starting point. Let's say this point. This is your starting point P. You have to move 2 units in the x direction and 5 units in the y direction. Okay, let me start from here. This is my point P. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 2 units in the x direction and 5 units in the y direction. That's the ending point. You're going to join them with a straight line. So that's your vector PQ. You need to be careful about the arrowhead. Starting point was P and ending point was Q. Then we have XY. So if I mark this point as X, I'll have from the X I'll have to travel -1, meaning leftward, and then 4 units on the top. So that's your position Y, and now you can join them with a straight line. So here we have our vector XY. Okay, then I have vector LM 5 minus 3. So if this is my starting point L, I'm going to move 5 units in the x direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then -3 indicates that you have to go down. -1, -2, -3. So that's the ending point M. So LM is our vector. Okay, starting is from L, so that's 5 units, and ending the y direction, in the y direction, that's -3, so that's downward. The next vector is vector B, that is 0, 2. Now starting point over here, let's say, is this starting, this is your starting point. We don't have a letter over here, so we are not going to mark any letter at the starting point. 0, 2 means that 0 movement in the x direction and +2 movement in the y direction. So from, you're not going to move any value in the x, so 0 for that, and for the y it's going to be 2. So now you can join the vector out. So this is vector B. Okay, now the next part says mark vector C 2, 0. So starting point, you have to move 2 units in the x direction, but there is no movement in the y direction, so this is going to be your vector